Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome back to GovConHacks. We have an exciting episode about R&D for you today, explore some different kind of government opportunities. And I'd like to welcome our guest, Miss Shari Nolen, joining us from SD Nolen Consulting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad to take this opportunity to talk about research and development contracting. My experience level is I've retired. It's going on 6 years at the end of this month. I can't believe it. From the Department of Defense, I worked for the Army, and I've also worked mainly for the Air Force. 21 years was spent with the Air Force Research Lab. I am a former contracting officer. I had an unlimited warrant for 20 years. And over 32 years in procurement doing various activities. So I'm excited about research and development. It's very interesting. I worked mainly supporting directed energy and space vehicles directorates down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I lived there for 29 years. So
wow.
Yeah, so that was a total different change than where I'm from. And then I returned back to Illinois. So that's where I'm located now. So the definitions of research and development, there's several different kinds of that basic concept, that basic research. You get an idea, a concept, and so you go out and you want to primarily see, is it feasible? And a lot of those basic research are going to go to educational institutions and nonprofits. And then you get more into the applied and the development, where you're taking that concept and then trying to apply it. Is it going to work? Is, do we, is this light bulb, this apparatus, can we put it together? Is it going to melt waxes and stuff? We have that concept of not having to have a candle. Can we use something like this? I just grabbed that as an example. So
like prototypes.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can it really work? So in space vehicles, we did microsatellites. Can we really get satellites smaller because there's so much space debris? We need to, and garbage, we need to make smaller satellites. Different kinds of sensors, because of when they go up in space, you got the heat. We did some alternative fuels where it wasn't just using the same kind of fuel to get launch vehicles up into space. Directed energy, it was very interesting. High power microwaves, you have lasers. And so those were more of the developmental kinds of things where we actually developed lasers, there's chemical, and now I forget what other kind, there's electrical variations of lasers. And so depending upon what kind of, what you're doing, are you doing basic or applied? Depends upon what kind of, do you have a contract, or do you get a grant, or do you do another transaction? So with contracts, I know I'm going to, just so I don't mess up, I got my notes here, but it's key, the policy is that contracts shall only be used when the principal purpose is for the acquisitions of supplies or services for the direct benefit or use of the federal government. So it has to be direct benefit to the federal government. And by the way, research and development is a service, not a product. So that's was in the FAR, and so it does come under CPAR's contract performance assessment report.
Okay, that's very good to know. So innovation has literally been the word of the quarter, even in my world, and I typically deal with service contracts. And I never really knew enough to know in my early days that the research and development had to come first. Like it just, I just never. So grants sometimes come before contracts, right?
Sometimes, yeah, or only have.
Or in correlation, because
there's correlation. Yeah,
that apply for grants. They do SBIRs, which we'll hear that a lot.
We're going to talk about that. Yep.
And
that one,
and then they'll do, the research and development. So, I mean, it depends, because I know companies that really kind of go for all kinds of funding, because you can still have a product and still want to innovate it. And the government will give you funding to innovate if they can see a value in it. Commercialized.
And Natasha, I'm glad you said SBIR, because I'm like, we switch. I didn't know it was just where I came from, but where we switched it around. But you said SBIR too, so it must be.
Oh yeah,
nationwide.
I think it's acquisition wide now.
Yeah, we switched my acronym around.
So then, what would be the definition of a grant, since a contract goes to the immediate benefit of the government? In turn, what does that mean a grant technically is?
Then a grant has to have, the main thing is the public purpose.
Yeah, you have to service the public.
Rather the benefit of the government, this is serving the public.
Right.
This is serving.
So you have to have like a mission, I would say.
Mission.
Like
and so that's why it
following.
Yeah. And that's why it mainly goes to, you'll see grants are really to the academic institutions and nonprofits.
Yeah.
And they don't get fee either. There's no fee or profit on. And there's other regulations that they have to go by there's a whole grants.gov is where if you want more information, go to grants.gov.
Go to grants.gov for sure.
That's where.
Now,
that's where
for accounting on grants, is DCA compliance going to be required to manage an R&D grant?
I don't believe so, but it's the OMB. Now my printout here is too.
Yeah, they have a whole different set because now you're using it for public funding. So they'll audit you for your funding. They gave you free money because you said that you were going to do what you said you were going to do, and so they double.
Well, there's compliance naturally, right?
And there's a lot of government oversight and everything. So
I don't need a DCAA compliant accounting system to play.
No, not
like what the audience wanted.
No.
None of that is.
It's
to that extent, really. Don't.
Yeah.
Our engineers in our community are drooling right now. I know it. So how do we find these opportunities? You mentioned a BAA being the primary method, at least for the OTAs. Is that the same for other R&D contracts?
Yeah, everything except for, I think the grants are put on, Natasha, aren't they put on?
Grants.gov.
Yeah, grants.gov. And everything.
SBIR, like research and development, CISOs, we call the CSOs, commercial solutions.
Oh, yeah.
All of those are on usually SAM.gov.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Everything else is SAM.gov. The BAAs are going to be on SAM.gov.
And a broad agency, BAA stands for Broad Agency Announcement. And you'll find under those the other transaction authority.
Yeah, and what's nice is that you also kind of locate those agencies that target innovation and normally do like research and development funding, because you have agencies and companies that partner with agencies, and those are our acceleration programs. The accelerators are meant to like be very demand driven, so they'll kind of pull and say, okay, government, what do you need? Right? Because we all know we're trying to like find the newest and latest.
Figuring it. Is the budget out yet?
It's like, what do we need? And it's like the government, well, we need the following. We really need X, Y, and Z. And we really like it to be, provide. They don't know what they need. They're just like, hey, listen, we kind of need this. Like, but if it can be innovative, blah, 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 we'll put it in R&D, help us with a contract vehicle, make it quick and easy, right? And those accelerator programs will create an announcement or a demand, like a DIU, Defense Innovation Unit, things like that, or DARPA. They'll go out there and they'll say, hey, listen, we have this budget. We can help you. We can be that connector. We'll help you get to the Army or the Navy or whoever it is. And this is what they need. And we'll teach you, we'll guide you, make sure you have the support operationally, and we'll help you and connect you to the funding. And so those are those middlemen that help you kind of also too. So I would say following those as well helps.
Yeah, and the BAA is just a way, like it's a solicitation.
Yeah.
Instead of a request for proposal with all the source selection and everything, a BAA is appearance or scientific review, and it cannot be related to the development of a specific system or hardware system. Okay, so we can't. So there are certain guidelines when you can have a BAA, but BAs are really easier than a source selection.
Yeah.
And there's several different types of BAAs. And you can only use a BAA if you're going to get meaningful proposals with varying technical or scientific approaches.
Wow.
So
when you say that there's multiple different BAs, can you elaborate on that a little bit for the audience?
Yeah, I was just going to say on the reason when you can get varying scientific and technical approaches, that means they offers are not competing against each other, because there's not a single statement of work. They issue statements of objectives, okay, and the offer writes the statement of work. So because they can't compete against each other, because they don't have a common statement of work to propose against, they're not competing against each other.
That's awesome.
They're competing against the technical evaluations. Now, there's several different kinds of BAAs, and there's the 1 or 2 step. And the 1 step, it just allows you, it's a request for technical and cost proposals from each offer. They're reviewed in accordance with the criteria. And one other thing that's nice about off of a broad agency announcement is you can award all, part, or none of a proposal or any proposals. So, and that's a little later, but yeah, we get that. So usually they're in 2 categories. They're selected or non-selected. Selected, if you have the funding, you like the whole proposal, you can award the whole proposal.
Okay.
But maybe they're selected, but not everything they like. They only want to take a part of that proposal and award it. They can do that, or you can be totally non-selected.
So could they then in turn award to multiple companies? I want to award in part to you and in part to you.
Yes.
Okay. And do they have to tell us in the announcement if they're planning on a single or multiple award?
And they usually say 1 or more, I think.
1 or more is the terminology? Okay.
Good
to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. But I think it's very flexible, the BAA. And so I think, if I remember correctly, it's 1 or more because of the money you hopefully have. It's all dependent upon, the evaluation criteria, how well everybody did, how many you have, and then the funding that you have. And we used to have categories, but obviously we used to have 3 categories, category 1, 2, and 3 when I was working BAs, but those have gone away, and now they just have the selected and non-selected. The 2-step is when they expect a large number of proposals, then they can ask for white papers, and that's some other of them. Get white papers in and evaluate those, see which ones are a good idea, which ones, no, that's way off in la la land. That's not of interest to us. And so those people then that had good white papers and were selected for the white papers are then asked to propose.
Can you explain to our audience what's the difference between, a white paper and a proposal?
Yeah, a white paper is pretty much just what are you thinking? What is your concept? And of course, then a proposal is more detailed of writing against the evaluation criteria, writing the statement of work, and a cost proposal, a full-blown cost proposal. Awesome. So white paper. And I know in the Air Force Research Lab, there's a guide. Maybe it's not Research Lab. I can't remember. There's so many guides out there. There's tons of guides about BAAs and the SBIR program.
SBIRs and a lot of agencies have SBIR programs.
Yes, there's 11
not
agencies.
Just one. 11.
11.
I learned something new every day.
I know. Enlightening.
And they do it what is it? They do it in phases. So
yes, they do it. Yeah, they have a whole. DOD has a whole every month. They have scheduled as to what is going to be released. Yeah, going back to BAAs. I know we hop and jump, but there's an open BAA and there's a closed BAA. And an open BAA is just out there, and it's it has to be publicized no less than annually. So you just sort of put out something that what are you interested in, and it's open out there for the year, and you can get white papers and proposals are reviewed during that time. And hey, if you like something, you can award. The closed BAA is the same. You can get white papers or proposals, but it's specified at a specific date and time in the BAA. A cutoff.
Okay, that makes sense. So more of a competition style that we're used to on the contract side, whereas open might be open for a year and anybody can respond.
Yeah, right. Come out if it meets that technology that we're looking for. Yeah, and then we'll see maybe we have money or not. Now the big one is the BA with calls, and the BA with calls is probably the most popular. It became very during my tenure. It did become popular where we put out, I worked for space vehicles, but like I said, there's little divisions that have different parts of research and development. Yeah. And so we had one big one for space vehicles, but then we had, okay, here's adaptive sensors. Here's what they're looking for. Here's when this portion of the BA will receive proposals or white papers. Here's another one. Here's this division. Here's what they want, and when do they receive? So you had to always keep, knowing what was open, but it was able to stay open. And I think you have to do it. The one I looked at just recently for directed energy that's out there for tactical it's a 5-year BAA open.
That is nice.
Hey, long-term funding.
Yeah. So I mean, talk about taking some relief off the contracting office.
Yeah.
It's nice that you can leave that out there. I was trying to, let's see, is there anything? But you have to leave it open for at least 12 months. And it's just every call or whatever you do, you can change it. Maybe funding changes, maybe the scope changes, and you modify it. And then the last one is a staggered closed type of BAA. There's a specified time for receipt of proposals, but then after that date, I think it's open. Okay, so the first round is a specific time and date to make your proposals and white papers in. And after that, you can submit one, like an open BA, but there may not be funding. Yeah, you're taking your chances.
Interesting.
It's always a nice way to kind of get in there, though, to introduce yourself to the client. Even if there isn't funding, when there is and they have a need, you want to still be there. And I know there's there's like that whole concept of like saving your time and your resources. Like we say that with RFIs and we say that with SBIRs that are not, where they literally state right there, there is no funding, but when there is, we'll consider it. It's still like you miss 100% of the chances
of the shots you don't take. That's right.
That is I live by that model daily, and
that's why even just if it asks for white papers, go ahead and submit it. It's just like with everything, right? Get to know your customer because the technical guys are the ones you really need to know, especially D. I don't understand. I mean, after so many years, I've started to catch on, but I always laugh because I did work with a rocket scientist. So
that's amazing.
So I'm like, I did work with one. There's so many symposiums and conferences and government. You got to go to those. That's where you meet the technical guys, because that's part of where they do their market research and that they for the RFIs and stuff and make decisions on things. So it's definitely you want to get out there and be known.
Yeah, and I think what's really good also about this is that, SBIR's research and development grants even, but when you're doing R&D, a lot of people have ideas and you have a plan, you have a thought, and you don't know if it's like something that you commercialize. And people always sit there and they're like, they think instantly like venture capitalists or this or that. And it's like, that's another funding stream, R&D, because you're essentially showcasing your idea to the government, right? It's all methodical. It's all in your head. You have a thought. Right. And if you get together with like some engineers or software developers or someone of a technical capacity and you build this team and you have this idea and you push it to the government and say, this is how we plan to market, commercialize, and do the work. And we have a really solid plan, which is almost like a proposal / business plan, right? I mean, why wouldn't you? I've seen people get like for phase 1, 250,000, right? That's to pay for the year, for you to pay for your hourly rates for all the people that are going to work on this project, to pay for the hardware, to testing.
Your data scientists. Right?
Yeah, it's for you. They will give you money to take your ideas and bring it to real life. And then the phase 2 comes in and it's like, okay, now provide us a demo. Showcase what you've done with the first phase we gave you, right? The funding we provided you. Now you got to show all your hard work, right? Your science project. And then boom, if it's good and they like it, they will give you more funding to develop and innovate and integrate. And eventually what they're looking for is for you to commercialize this product that you literally one day thought of into an actual source that they could eventually buy from you in a contract.
In contract with you. Yes. And so they're funding you to make a thing that they're going to end up buying from you later.
Yes. Or with the commercialization, just a couple examples of that we use right today that was done on a SBIR GPS technology.
Ooh.
And if I'm correct, that came out of Rome Labs, out of the Air Force Research Lab, out of Rome, New York, that technology, digital thermometers, LED lighting. What's that?
I didn't know any of that.
Flat panel displays, and then 3D printing. Those are just a few of what has come out of SBIR.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it's amazing.
Printing.
I think there's even something maybe with I don't know if the defibrillators came out or not. It seems like
there was one the other day that was like these drones that had like sensors in them that could like test what was in the rocks and in the water with like electric magnets. And I was like, what? And it was like going over the land so that you wouldn't have to do like fracking. We just automatically test and know what materials and minerals are in there so that you can be like, okay, it's right there.
That's
I don't
amazing.
spend this time and resources and costs searching. Wow. And I was like, that's we're
okay.
Right? We're getting like
right. I need that technology here in my yard because we can't find our septic tank.
I'll send you their whips.
Where we were told where it was.
In mine.
They go and they get the patents, and I mean AI is like huge right now. So everybody's looking at XR.
Oh, speaking of, did you see there's a new AI contract vehicle? An IDIQ. It's on SAM right now. So anybody's in AI, it's another innovation the government's dumping money into. It's a multiple award IDIQ. So you'll still be competing with some other companies, but I wonder if AI was developed in SBIR. Do you know, Shari?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like,
I know there's AI products.
Out in like different vehicles, which I thought was really interesting this year because innovation's been the theme of the government this whole year. But
literally,
we saw that in SOUP. We see that in Lion 3 came out, and they have a section now where it's not just your NICS codes that you have past performance in. They want to see innovation. Like, where do you provide, extended reality? Where do you do AR, VR? Like, where have you done this? And they'll take in your research and development work that you've done as past performance now.
That's awesome.
There's different IDIQs and vehicles that are like supporting that.
And so I think we'll see a lot more different changes again to some of the vehicles that we have. So I think I talked pretty much on BAAs. We talked about the selection, that usually let me go over what's typical criteria. Is there the overall scientific and technical merit? What is important to the particular office that needs this program requirements and funds availability. Very simple.
Very simple.
And then cost price analysis is always done. And just getting back, normally most contracts, except for SBIR, but most contracts under BA are usually cost type contracts. They do some firm fixed price now, more probably firm fixed price contracts in the R&D arena, but mainly fixed fee ones are, I think, the most popular. I've done a few incentive fees. I've done a lot of award fees in R&D, but that's, I think, gone away. That needs to get more in the development or the prototypes, not in the basic or applied.
Now, I do want to have I want to have you back, and I want to go deeper into this topic that I'm about to frame my question around.
Okay.
But with our last few minutes left, you mentioned before we started OTA. And OTAs, I am brushing up my skills on as well, but they work very similarly in the R&D budget, right? Other transaction authorities.
Yeah, there's two statutes, right? It's two different statute authorities that result in 3 different OT agreements. Okay. The one is research OTs, prototype, and then production OTs. Okay. So it's expanded, and then it's outside of the FAR. It's not a FAR contract, but it is still a contract. I looked at OSD's OTA guide, so it is a contract because you still have the elements of a contract there. But it's and it is protestable. I was just telling Ashley there was myths that you couldn't protest it because you were outside of the FAR, but no, that's not true. And so I copied down these OTA takeaways. It allows federal agencies to enter into agreements with non-traditional defense contractors. And that was the big thing when it first came. I think these go back to the 50s, the authority. Oh. So, but they really were never used. And then like I said, I did one, but that was trying to get to a non-traditional defense contractor, and a lot of them for like Intel or some, IBM, those people so they didn't have to change their cost type of accounting, and they didn't have to abide by all these FAR regulations. There's still regulations, but they didn't have to abide by all that. But they still want to get to small businesses, research institutions, and nonprofit organizations. Right. They allow agencies, as I said, bypass certain FAR requirements, which can speed up. But that was a myth too in this OSD, is that they're not always that fast. That's true, especially if you're having to write articles and get agreement on articles. Yeah. It can be used for a variety of purposes, as we already said: prototyping, R&D, and follow-on. Innovative. They have medium to high risk, and they can be beneficial for both the government and contractors. And I believe they have a max of 500 million.
Oh, wow.
I think that's only 500 million.
5 years, 500 million.
Yeah. And on the SBIRs, there's 11. I just go by that. There's 11 agencies that do SBIRs, and there's 5 agencies that have the STTR. I know. DOD does the those. Yeah. I know they do the STTRs. I don't know of the other ones. I have a list.
I know that NASA does them. There's a couple of them. We have DARPA, AFWorks. There's a couple.
Yeah, DARPA. And one thing about DARPA, at least during my time frame, DARPA has a very small, I assume, contracting office. So even though DARPA does the solicitation, does the selection and everything, a lot of times they will transfer the actual contracting over to another agency, to
another awarding agency. Yeah, they were talking. I was
surprised.
On a training with DARPA the other day, and I gotta say it was one of the best agency presented trainings I have ever seen. Usually, you get acquisition professionals that come up there and they're all stuffy to you in DAU. Like, come on, you guys wouldn't
Was it a
survive a minute
contracting
if you were
person
you
or
in
was
this
it
island they raised us.
I remember. Oh, I think she's the person I remember. I think she's probably retired too. Do you want me to list the 11 agencies? I can do it.
Yeah, let's have them.
Okay. So Small Business Administration, the Department of Agriculture, Defense, Commerce, Education, Energy, and Environmental Protection, Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, NASA, National Science Foundation, and Transportation are the 11 agencies. So, it's based, what is it, 100 million? They have to do a percentage based on if they do so much dollars in R&D to set aside from their budget to fund SBIR.
And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record when I say this, but out of these 11 agencies, guys, the first step, if you know who buys what you sell and you know who your targeted audience is, this is just yet another way that you can grow your business through working with them. Yes. If what you're offering is consistent with their mission and their vision, explore it for yourself.
Yes.
Yep. Great information. Thank you so much for this.
Oh, you're
welcome. A wealth of knowledge and experience. And I hope we can have you back to kind of dig further into.
Sure, we'll go do some more research and have my notes so I can remember, because like I said, some things have changed for me.
Yes, that's one thing about contracting is it changes constantly.
Yes, you have to keep up. I can't. When I first did the SBIR's phase 1 was 100,000. Phase 2 was 750, and now what are they at? Over 200 some thousand for phase 1.
Yeah, it's like phase 1, 500 for phase 2 or something like that. Yeah.
And SBIRs are still they're not a permanent law. They have to be extended by Congress every 2 years. They're good through fiscal year 25 now, which I guess I didn't even realize, or I forgot. There's only so much information.
There's only so much room up here. I've forgotten more than what I currently know about.
I know. I go, it's just the files aren't moving.
Nobody's read the FAR cover to cover. I don't care what they say.
Right.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Shari, for sharing your knowledge with us, and Natasha.
You're welcome. Yes, thank you for your.
I learned a lot today. I don't know about you, but I was sitting here like this. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's been great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you back here same time next week. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.